If you're an artist interested in building a strong personal brand, few have done it quite as well as Pablo Muñoz Gomez. Welcome to the Mo Method, where we talk to creatives who have turned their passions into professions. Today's guest is Pablo Muñoz Gomez, a celebrated 3D concept and character artist. Pablo's career is a testament to embracing an organic path, transforming diverse experiences into unique strengths, and meticulously crafting a powerful professional identity. In this episode, Pablo shares his fascinating journey, which evolved to where it is now without a clear turning point. We'll explore the encouragement that propelled him into his successful freelancing, allowing him to dive deep into his passion for ZBrush, and ultimately leading to the creation of his renowned online platform. This conversation is a must-listen for artists eager to cultivate their unique identity, foster resilience, and truly define success on their own terms. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it.
Hey, I'm Pablo Muñoz. I'm a 3D concept and character artist.
So let's I guess take it from the beginning. How did you get into the industry? How did you start your career? Did you go to school?
And it's been a really organic process for me. I don't even remember. There's not like a turning point that I think. Now it's been like a transition thing. I don't even know if I'm in the industry at this stage. I've done works, jobs and things in the industry, but it would be different depending on who you ask and the different perspectives, right? I would say 15 years ago, roughly, that's when I kind of started doing more professional work, like things that I would get paid, and it would be like a good paid for a job that I would do professionally. Around 15 years ago when I started. I did go to university in Costa Rica. So I'm from Colombia, but I went to Costa Rica when I was 15, and I studied digital animation, and that's like my bachelor degree. And then I decided to move to Australia, where I'm right now. That's the reason why the weird sort of accent and mash of, the accent really. Where I studied animation or digital. Sorry, what was the name? It was a masters of digital animation and interactive media. That was the name back in the day in the RMIT, which was a really good program. For a year and a half, for almost 2 years, and that kind of was more about networking and introducing techniques and software and things like that. It was very self-paced in a way. We had different classes, but we got exposure to a bunch of different things, which was really good, and the network, and that was kind of like an eye-opener for me, because that allowed me to connect and meet a bunch of people here in Australia that ultimately allowed me to stay. And that's where I am now.
Yeah. So did you ever work for a studio, or were you always kind of doing your own independent work?
I did work for different studios. I did an internship in a studio here called XYZ. I don't know if it is still around, but it was very, very brief, a couple of days only, and that was it. And then after that was when I was at uni, by the way. Then after that, I did some freelance work for studios here and there, but I never really got into an industry studio and worked for them. I actually got a job, it's just funny, but I got a job as an animator, as a modeler and as an animator, where I worked for 4 years. It's called MedAdvisor. So it's a tech company that developed this application to track your medicines for elderly people and things like that.
Like a pill
counter. It's completely different from anything that you might think that I do right now. But it helped me to learn a lot of processes in a startup. So, working in an agile method, or delivering things on time and prototyping, and because it was ultimately creating a new app, right?
Yeah.
And I was in charge of the UI and the user experience. So two things that nowadays is you need two different people probably.
Right.
And I was also doing the animation. So I designed, there was a pharmacist character that it will kind of you remember the little clip from Windows? Was it Windows PowerPoint or something like that? It was a little clip. How old are you?
I'm 28.
You wouldn't remember.
Before my time.
You wouldn't remember. There was a little clip in Word or a PowerPoint. I will just pop up a little clip and say, "Hey, how can I help you?" So it was like a
Oh,
mascot.
yeah, I remember Clippy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
I
that.
think when you're
It's not
saying
that
clip,
old.
I think you meant like a little video clip. No, you're talking about
No,
like
no,
the
no, no.
paper
Sorry.
clip.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
little clippy. Yeah.
I remember
Okay.
him. Yeah.
It's not that old then. So imagine something like that for the app. But instead of being
Okay.
like a little clip or paper clip, it was a pharmacist, like a cartoonish pharmacist,
Mhm.
that will go like, "Hey, time to take your medicine," and there were like different animations, or here's a reminder to fill your script, blah blah blah. So in a way, I was doing something related to what I wanted to do or what I studied. So I was animating, I was modeling, I was texturing, I was doing all of that in an industry that wasn't necessarily the film or the video game industry. But it paid the bills. And after that, I kind of like started doing a lot more freelance. So having that security in that job and kind of like doing something related gave me the ability to work kind of like on my side. And I started doing tutorials because people, like some of my friends, asked me for little things, and I started doing these little bits and pieces. And then I realized that there was quite a few people asking me for specific things that I knew how to do, and there was like demand for it. So I started doing more of these, and then I got really into ZBrush after hating it for years. I got really into it, and that's kind of like I would say that was the turning point. Like when I really understood the ZBrush software as a tool, of what I could create with it, I kind of like started sharing more of it, and that basically ended up being the ZBrush Guides. So I created the ZBrush Guides website to just share those tutorials, and just fast forward a few years, and I left that job, and then I started working for myself and doing more freelance stuff, and nowadays I work for different studios as part of my day-to-day job.
You do it like on a contract basis.
Yeah. So I do different contracts with like per project. There's only one right now that I'm kind of like, I wouldn't say that I'm not like an employee, but it's like a contracting thing. It's just that they work with purchase orders. So like they give me like, hey, we have 100 days for you to work with us, and then they just give me whatever job they require. So that's kind of like a different one, and that's for Archetype Entertainment. You might have heard of them. They do.
I'm not sure.
I've been working on this game called Exodus. It's it's from Archetype Entertainment. It's a kind of like a space odyssey type of thing. Massive space opera. There's a lot of time dilation. So
interesting.
Yeah, whatever you like, whatever the player chooses will affect the past and the future, and then you just go back and forth.
That's cool.
Like really cool.
Wow.
So that's kind of like that's the most recent job that I'm currently working at. As a freelance.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So let me ask you, like, I'm curious, like as a freelancer, because it's kind of hard, like, did you ever have times when things were not necessarily coming in on a regular basis, and you kind of, had like uncertainty about kind of your future in the industry rather?
Yeah. I mean, I still feel that way even now, that I'm confident that if I put myself out there and say, hey, I'm available, I might get something. But there's been many times that I'm going like, maybe I should just try something else,
Yeah. What brought you back? Like every time you kind of have that thought, how do you pull yourself back from the?
Yeah. So I have okay. There's two things. I have two friends here. One of them is in marketing, so he's just like a marketing guy, and another one is I think a civil engineer or something. Just some completely different. They don't understand the industry. That's my point. Like, I mean, the marketing guy might a little bit, but they're completely different. But they value, they see value in what I do. So I've had conversations with them, and those two guys were the guys who actually pushed me to go on my own and quit that job like years ago. Because they're saying like, man, you've been wasted in this. In a like a very friendly way. We're very close. So they're that type of friends. Like, you're an idiot. You need to move out. You need to do these things. And they sort of like push me. And one of them literally said to me, "Look, I will pay your mortgage, not your mortgage at the time, your rent.
Rent.
I'll pay your rent for 2 months after you quit if you cannot find a way to live out of what you do, right? And I was like, yeah, man, this is really nice and everything. I don't believe you that you're gonna do it. It's like, I promise I will do that, but I'm confident in saying this because I know that you're gonna pull it off. So they kind of like they gave me that kick to get out of my comfort zone. And then when and I didn't kind of like just jump into deep water. I actually saved for 6 months. I saved enough to cover me and everything. But I guess my point here is that I got pushed by these two good friends saying, what you do, there's value in what you do. You can do it on your own. You just need to put yourself out there and show that you can do it and get the networking, which is super important. And so that's basically what I started doing. I started going to more events locally, and I also made the effort to go to to America and go to the ZBrush Summit and those type of things that really, really help to get my name out there, let's say, and show what I was doing. So yeah, that was one thing. And the other thing is another friend told me, maybe this is for a different podcast or a different story, but when I came to Australia, the way that I supported myself was doing little figurines of plasticine. So there was like a local market, just like a fruit and veg market called the Vic Market or the Victoria Market. And it's pretty famous market in Melbourne. So I rented a spot like maybe a month after I came here. I didn't know anybody, just had a friend here. I rented a spot. It's literally the size of a car park. And I had like one of those folding chairs and folding table. And that's what I used to do. I used to teach kids how to do like plasticine, caricatures, and things like that back in Costa Rica. That's what I'm saying. It's for a different podcast probably. This is like a long story. But the point is, I started doing those things, and I supported myself through my entire university years, so like the master's degree, creating caricatures, right? So I could do up to, I don't know, 6 or 7 caricatures a week. And I used to charge like $100 for each. So I would have like $700 to live, which it wasn't bad, right? I had other friends that were immigrants like myself that had other jobs that were a bit tougher, right? That
right.
I'm fortunate that didn't have to do any of those, right? Like, putting posters on different, stores of like, I don't know, mobile networks and things like that. So I didn't have to do any of that. And that's going back to your point and to your question, is that was kind of like my baseline. So I realized that I could do that. I could sell caricatures, and if worst comes to worst, I can just go back and do that. And I knew already that I could potentially just leave. And it's something that I kind of like enjoyed. It's like a manual thing. It taught me a lot of patience and the process, and building my own tools to create things and speeding up workflows. So it had like a lot of benefits. So that's basically the two reasons. 2 friends that pushed me into doing it, that they saw the value, and having that reference of my baseline, that the worst case scenario is that I could just go back to that. I don't have to.
Yeah. And this is before you're doing digital sculpting.
Yeah. This is way before.
Wow.
This is way before. At that time, I actually I studied when I was in Costa Rica, and I studied digital animation. That was my first contact with ZBrush 2. That was the ZBrush 2. And at the time, the only reason why they taught us ZBrush in university was because there was nothing like it for creating normal maps. And to this day, I think it's a very powerful thing, right? So I hated it. Like it was very technical for me, and I was like, this is really boring. I don't want to have to do anything with this. So I hated it. But then in the master's degree, when I was like doing the manual stuff, like the caricatures and everything, I did a tutorial, like a really old one. I think it was from Joseph Drost. And really old one. And I did it. It's like, oh, that's not too bad, right? And there was a contest for Silent Hill, some kind of like creature that if you win, they will put like your creature in Silent Hill. And I did something like that, and I didn't win anything, but I got like I think it was like a mention or something. I don't remember.
Shout
that
out.
was like a long time ago, right? And I did it with ZBrush 3 or something. So I started to get the hang of it, and I thought, yeah, this is something cool to get into, and it doesn't require like the messy stuff with the clay stuff, and all of that. All of the stuff is like it's
all the
it has
fun
its
without the
bonuses.
mess.
Yeah, exactly. and I started thinking about that digital sculpting tool in that sort of term, because I had that reference as well from the real world. So I think that helped me understand, like it helped me understood a little bit of the 3D space a bit more, and like the volumes and blocking things out and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely an unconventional path.
There's layers, man.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious, what would you say, like percentage wise, let's say, of your work currently is like education and doing courses versus the contract work for studios?
Great question. I would say 50-50 at this point. Because that's kind of like how I plan my week. So I either develop like courses or free tutorials, or I like learning a lot of stuff. So I always test different tools, and if I find something of value, I just share a bunch of stuff. And if I see that, kind of like throwing what's the saying, throw the spaghetti to the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
I just do that, and it's like, people are interested in this thing. Fair enough. I can just learn more about it and then try to teach it. So I tend to do that. That's part of my week. And the other part is, all right, I have to do, I don't know, 3 days a week or 2 days a week in these projects that I have with freelance, right? So I just kind of like divide it. But yeah, I think I'm at a point that I'm like super fortunate that I can basically play with my time in any way that I want to, and I am super upfront and honest with anyone that I work with, saying one of the biggest priorities that I have is the community that I've built, because I feel a sense of responsibility in a way. Like I want to maintain, I want to be part of it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm upfront and say, like, look, I have this thing, I cannot do full time with you, right? I can offer, if a project will take me a week, I can offer you to finish it in 3 weeks, because I will work 2 or 3 days every week, right? Things like that. So I would say, to answer your question more specifically, 50-50. Sometimes I do more work, let's say 60-40 with the freelance, and those are the times that, for instance, one of the biggest course I have online, which is the Extra Mile, I have to close it, and it's closed at the moment, and I only open it when I have a window of time between projects, so that I can use that time to be more present in the community and help the students that are just starting up and things like that. So yeah, it varies.
I mean, those kinds of like online courses are so valuable. I did one with Paul Gabry, had one for a little bit. He did like two courses. One was like about hard surface modeling, and then one was about 3D printing. And that's like all my 3D printing knowledge came from that course.
Oh, awesome.
It was just really cool. It's a really cool opportunity to get to not just meet these people, but like develop a relationship with them.
Yeah.
And like, but I saw like how hands-on it is, like, because he's constantly, first of all, once a week he was giving the actual class, and then throughout the week people were submitting work and he was giving critiques, and so it's a really, really cool thing. But I can imagine it's extremely time consuming as well.
Yeah, it's demanding. It's super rewarding as well.
Right.
So, talking about Jaime Ramirez, right? So he's a student of mine, and he started, like, when he started, the stuff that he was doing wasn't as polished in the style that he was pursuing. He was doing really good stuff, right? But he wasn't as polished in that style that he wanted to do, or like the style that I would say he has now. And then he finished the course, and he finished with a really cool dude, and then he did another course, and then he came back again and did the whole course again. And then the difference between the stuff that he produced when he started and what he's doing now is massive, right? And because I've seen the progress, and I've seen how much, like, in terms of the skills he progresses, I was able to recommend it for recommend him for a job that he was actually doing and finished recently, working with a friend of mine, and he loved it, right? But it's that, like you said, that involvement. If you're a witness of what other people are kind of like growing, it's super rewarding and feeling like, oh, I'm part of that as well.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of like give back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was talking to Shane Olson about the same thing, and he was saying like, it's so rewarding seeing, students and seeing their growth over time, and and it's a really cool feeling to like, to be able to look at somebody and be like, wow, like I had a part in kind of like helping them, get to where they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which leads me to another question I wanted to ask you, and that is, like, who are some of your kind of key influences and I don't know necessarily mentors, but people who kind of shaped you into the artist that you are?
Oh man, that's like a really hard question, because there's like so many things and so many people, and sometimes not even artists, just like someone that just might have mentioned something that made me think, oh yeah, maybe I'm thinking about this in a different way, and it just changes your mindset a little bit. So I can't think of those role models that will shape me into an artist. Like obviously I can mention like awesome artists that I look up to, and they will be like these people that I want to be like, and have like a lot of influence in their work. But I would say it's just a mash of different people and views. So it's a hard question, but I would say like even with things to do with the business, let's say, or things that are not necessarily just working as an artist. Without going that far, Shane Olson, we had a chat maybe 2018, I think it was, when I was about to jump into a project that I was going to do for myself to build kind of like that audience that I have now. And I was going to do Patreon and a bunch of other things. And he was the one who actually said, no, man, don't do that. I would recommend this. And he showed me the pros and cons and what he was doing. And he actually was a huge influence in the way that I built the initial, like the initial version of my online training. So, this is what I mean. Like there's like so many people and so many influences that it's hard to like single them out. But
that's
a hard question.
I'm curious to hear, because just you brought up this idea about kind of building like that online community. Obviously you do it through education. That's I'd say a big part of your community, but kind of I think a lot of artists kind of fall into one of two camps. They're the ones who those who are community oriented, I guess, and those who are like, no, I just want to sit down and do my art and like not worry about anything else,
right?
And they both definitely have their pros and cons. Not to call out one as a bad thing, but I'm curious to hear from you, like, what's sort of the process, maybe let's say even education, that aspect aside, just like for an artist who wants to develop a community around their work. And you see a lot of this on Discord. You see, a tremendous amount of artists who have very active communities. What for you have you found like works to kind of develop that community?
I think it's the building the space, really, the network to allow people to connect that have similar interests. Like you said, there's like these two types. Like if you can classify them as those two types of artists. I think the worst part of being by yourself, like right now, like I'm in a studio and I'm like in a vacuum. I don't have any contact with the outside world. Is that there is no feedback. There's no like, hey, you're doing this wrong, or this is cool, but have you tried this? So you tend to isolate yourself from that. So when you create a community, with the limited experience that I've had of creating communities in, let's say, Discord, the private community with the students, is not about showing and sharing like cool stuff in the community itself. It's just providing the space and creating that sort of engagement so that people can connect with each other. So in other words, if you are that type of artist that you just want to work on your own, but you have like an affinity towards fantasy themes or things of that nature, and you find yourself in that community that there's someone else that might be the same as you, or like might have that sort of or might gravitate towards that sort of themes of fantasy and creatures and things like that, then you start communicating with that person because you have that that common
mutual interest.
Yeah. So it might not be that you're gonna work on your own and you're not gonna talk to anyone, but you might start, talking to other people that have interest. And the cool thing is that other person that has that specific interest might have something else and might be more open, so it will bring in someone else, and it becomes that sort of exponential thing. So I don't think that there's a little bit of luck as well. So when you set something up, there might be that element of luck, that whatever you're doing is something that works because people are joining and finding it like interesting and engaging. And I've changed my communities at least 3 or 4 times now, as in testing new things, see what works, changing it from like forum type to more like a private sort of like Facebook type of thing, and a few different things just to try out, again, in an effort to see what resonates with the audience that I have. So
what have you found works best?
Well, I think the one that we currently have, I have 2 communities right now. We have the private community that is part of my academy, and then we have the public community where we share a lot of like different things, and that's in Discord. So I think Discord works really well, and we just started a new thing called the Weekly Forge. So with the arrival of my kid, I have less and less time now, but that's kind of like pushed me to try to do more things, which sounds a little bit crazy, but I'm trying to prove to myself that even though with a huge responsibility and my time being reduced and not being able to sleep as much, I can still produce things at a high quality and do a lot of stuff. So anyway, we created this new thing called the Weekly Forge, where we try to forge a new skill every week. So we have random themes, and we it's just starting up like literally 3 or 4 weeks ago we started it. But that's sort of like have created that engagement because it challenges people, even though it might not have like a big prize or anything. It's just like, this is a cool thing. I just want to do it to show that it is working, and then I can just find the best ones, share online, and it's kind of like gamifying things a bit. And that's the free kind of like community. But then of course I also have the private community where I have students that know my process and know my workflow. And that one is a fantastic community because people is like super safe to share anything. Everyone is like super open to give like honest critique. Not like, if you have like a large following base in Instagram, for instance, and you share something that is cool, a lot of people go like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, this is cool. And that's great to, boost your ego, if anything, but it might not give you like that kick that you need. It's like, hey, this is great, but the shoulder is off.
Right, you're not going to get the critical feedback.
Exactly. And that I think is what has worked really well in the community, that it's a safe place to share, like, this is what we're doing. But hi, they might be, here's a resource, or a lot of the artists in the community do like paintovers and share feedback on paintovers. So that has been a great thing for the community to feel like this is a cool place. Even if you're a new student that just joined, they see that the whole activity, they see how people interact with each other, they're respectful. Sometimes we have like random stuff in channels, so it becomes a very safe space. And I think that has worked. That's one of the things that had worked really well. 2 things: being safe in the sharing, because a lot of people don't like to share until they start. And the other thing in like the public community or in the free one, let's say, it's that engagement of like gamifying it a little bit and challenge yourself with your time to do more things. Yeah.
So then one thing I want to kind of focus in on that you kind of danced around a little bit, and that is kind of the networking aspect of things. You kind of touched upon the importance of networking and building that network. Can you kind of give some tips and tricks about how people can go ahead and either whether they're starting out or whether they already have a bit of a experience under their belt, but going ahead and developing that network that kind of leads to jobs and kind of helps, not even for the sake of getting your name out there, but just for the sake of forwarding your career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, I think the community, the Discord communities and all of that, they're great. They're great as an ongoing thing to keep up with other people and things like that. But as a network to get jobs and to really be in the industry, they're not as good if you compare them to being present and to be like in person in different events. So I would say what really changed my network, let's say, from just being someone posting things online and just knowing people or knowing names online to actually interact and have friends in the industry, that we still talk online and everything, but I can call them friends, and it's it's a stronger network, right? What changed that for me at least was going to different events and just put yourself out there. I don't know. I think I'm like an introvert, even though and maybe that's one of the things that I tend to just talk a lot, which might not be a sign of an introvert. But when you go to these events, it's just kind of like putting yourself out there, and you force yourself to be out of your comfort zone. So for me, starting a conversation with someone is not as easy as it might seem, like to just go, hey, hello, but being in the event and being like in person, everyone is kind of like doing the same. Everyone is trying to do the same. So you just fill the room, see what's happening. You might encounter someone that you talk for like 2 seconds and it's like, oh yeah, this is not going nowhere, you know?
Right.
But then you might find someone that does, and then you kind of like become attached to that person in that event, as in like you're in that group, and then that person knows someone else, and that sort of thing. So in person, there's nothing that beats in person, and that's what changed and created my network, right? Just I met a couple of guys back in the day, like Alwyn Hunt and Andrew McDonald. These guys run the Rookies, right? The website for it's a pretty big website where I think the tagline is no professionals allowed or something. So it's like for like entry level people that want to join and get into the industry, and they have a lot of resources. They have a lot of deals with industry, but also in the communities and in the educational kind of like sector, like the actual educational sector in the country. So anyway, I met these two guys like a long time ago, and from there, it's kind of like the network kind of like exponentially grew, because Alvin would say, hey, I met Pablo, he does these ZBrush Guides things, like you should check this out, blah, 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 and then introduce me to someone else that does the other thing, and that's it. Like as soon as you put yourself out there, and then you click with one person, that person already has a tiny network, and you're in.
Right. Are there specific events that you recommend?
Well, I guess it based on the things that you do. I think one of the best events I've been to is the THU. The Trojan Horse Was a Unicorn, because there's less networking there, or at least for me there wasn't as much networking. Maybe because I went with some friends already in the industry, so we just hang around together. But it's like a super cool place to kind of like get inspired more than anything. So you go there, and there's so many things happening, so many talks, so many people showing like really cool stuff and like really inspiring stuff, that you finish that and then you just want to do things, and you just go into this crazy, or at least for me, go into this crazy production time that you just create things and try new things. And I think that's another good thing about going to an event, even if you don't meet someone.
Right.
For me, the ZBrush Summit was great, because I already had like people in that sort of industry that I knew, or that knew me for the different tutorials that I was doing. So it was easy, right? So I would just go, hey, I'm the guy that does these ZBrush Guides, and they might go like, oh yeah, I've seen one of your tutorials, and then that was just the icebreaker. That's it. So I guess if you're looking into getting into that industry, let's say if you're into toy collectibles, right? And you are, let's make it really specific. If you're into toy collectibles, and you speak Spanish and you're in Latin America, right? You just look for.
I'm surprised how many Brazilians are in the collectible space.
Yeah,
Every time I see Sideshow, I feel like a huge chunk of like the sculptors there are from Brazil.
Yeah, I know heaps from Argentina actually, like Danny Bell and Claudio Abraham. And Martin Canale. They're
like on Instagram. Like I'll like see like a really cool sculpture.
Yeah.
Of like a collectible, and I'll click on the profile, and it's like always the Brazilian flag.
I mean, the Brazilians.
What's going on in Brazil?
The Brazilians are crazy good. Like I every single Brazilian artist that I know is absolutely crazy talented. Envy talented. Like this is annoying.
Slinging the water there.
But like my point about the network is like if you have like something specific in mind, like collectibles, right? And again, like making it super specific, you don't speak English or your English is not as fluent. You only speak Spanish and you are in Peru or Latin America, right? So that makes it harder because maybe you don't have that confidence to go into, Amsterdam and go into one of those events because you don't speak English or because you don't have that network or because it is not really related to collectibles. And then you just find the right event that works for you. So in this case, could be DynaFest, which is from Daniel Bell and Claudio Abraham. So DynaFest is something that they did just because they wanted to have that community. I think 2 years ago they did the first DynaFest and it just exploded. It was like massive. So and I think they're doing it again this year, but don't quote me on that. But I think it is happening. So I get my point is. Just find the niche that you want to be part of, like, or what sector of the industry might be of interest. Find the events that sort of like related to it, and try to target those first, because you will find people that have that sort of same interest as yourself to go in and have like a much easier icebreaker. And as a practical advice, which I guess it worked as well for me in those type of events, is nowadays everyone has like the Instagram and the QR codes and all of that, right? So if you meet someone and then you're like, oh, what's your work, or what's your handle or something, you will just pull out your Instagram and I'll follow you, blah blah blah, and that's the exchange, right? But then after that, it might kind of like die out or you forget or whatever. So I kind of like went to like one of the first events that I went to was the ZBrush Summit in 2018, and what I did was I went to back to basics, and I printed out business cards, like old school paper business cards. And there is like a really cool company called Moo in the UK, MOO, where relatively cheap, for like $100 or 120, you can print out up to 50 or 100 cards, both sides. And the quality is great, but so I printed all my details in one side, and on the other side, they allowed you to upload up to 50 different designs. So in the same order, you get 50 different designs. So I printed out most of my portfolio in like little images. So it were kind of like collectible cards, and that was like a super easy icebreaker for me, because if I was with someone in that event that I already knew, right, and then there was a group of 10 people around us, right? And one of them will go like, oh yeah, I follow you, blah, blah, blah. Or where can I follow you? I will just pull out my cards and just kind of like do like a spread, like choose your
pick a card.
Yeah, pick a card. They all have the same details, but you can choose the design. And that was like a really easy icebreaker, because they were like, oh, this is amazing. Like, and they started like choosing. And then when other people see that, they come around and it's like, oh, can I have one of those? Oh no, I already have that one. And for me, that was great, because I didn't really think about it. I just thought it's cool to have multiple designs. But that sort of like told me, oh, that's a cool thing that you can do. It was pure luck, because I wasn't planning on it. And then I kept using it, And now I print my portfolio and share it like that. And it becomes a nice icebreaker.
Yeah. When I went to Germany recently for this expo, so before I went, a family friend of ours, he's, my parents' age, but, big in business and whatever. And so he gave me a suggestion of, make a business card that stands out, because, you're going to be getting 1,000 business cards, and if it's just another standard business card, it'll get added to the pile and, kind of forgotten about. So, before I went, I 3D printed like I found like a file online. I 3D printed little business cards and
nice.
put my name and like my email, and then it was a little pop out. It was like a little robot. You could like pop the pieces out and assemble it to build a little
Right.
robot.
Oh, in a
And
single one.
so yeah, it was like I don't have
Nice.
any, I don't have any here, but and I only printed like, I don't know, maybe 50, like less,
Hmm.
because there's just time constraint and the
Yeah,
printer's
yeah, yeah.
not so fast. And so I had two sets of cards. I had those cards, and then I had kind of just like the classic,
Hmm.
name with a QR code or whatever. And so anytime I would talk to somebody who like I felt like there was like something there,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd pull out
Give
one of these
those.
cards, and like their
Yeah,
eyes would light up, and they'd be like, "Oh my god!" Like it really makes an impact on people. And I
yeah,
think that's something that like shouldn't be looked over. Like how much of an impact your business card really. It's really, in a lot of ways, that's kind of the first impression
hmm
that there's obviously the first impression you make when you meet the person and you're talking to them, right? But then if especially if you're at a show, right, where you're meeting thousands of people,
yeah.
over the course of the weekend or whatever it is, you go home after the show, you go start sorting through your business cards, right? And I
Hmm.
had this myself. Like you're looking through cards and you're like, wait a second, who was this person? Like, what did we talk about?
Yeah, yeah,
But if you have a card where like they see and they're like, oh, I remember this guy,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it makes a huge. I think it makes a huge difference in terms of kind of just again that lasting impact and gives you sort of a leg up. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's still like a really solid way of introducing yourself, like with just a paper business card. And then in
Yeah.
there you can have all your digitals and all your stuff and
Yeah.
share your Instagram. But and that's kind of like what I had it in the other side. It was just the QR code, and then you could just kind of go into the
Right.
socials. But it was the key aspect. Well, like you said, like in your case, the 3D print, it was like the wow factor. It's like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like it's different. And mine wasn't as cool. Mine was just different images. But I printed like 200, and the first day they went like I gave them away.
Yeah.
And sometimes I was trying to sort of like keep them for like there's something here when I give it to you. But
Yeah.
it was kind of like cool to see that everyone was like, oh, I want to see. Can I have this one? Oh, do you still have the one with the Frankenstein? Oh no, I
Yeah.
just gave it away. So it kind of like become a thing that I wasn't expecting, and I was like, no, just if you want it, just have it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah. I'm curious, kind of just we're not talking about art so much. We're talking more about the business side of things, but
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's also very valuable. And so, kind of on that, while we're on the topic, how do you kind of like balance the business and the creative? Kind of because I know doesn't necessarily come naturally to a lot of people.
Mm. Oh,
Again,
I
kind of
didn't.
going back to the two types of artists. I think there's also two types of
Mm.
artists with business: those who know how to run a business, and those who don't.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're better off if you can manage your own business, whether it's your personal brand and you're selling product, whatever it is that you're doing. I think it's a very valuable skill to learn and to master as an
Mhm.
artist. Can you kind of talk about kind of how you approach the business side of the industry, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I wouldn't say it comes natural at all. Like I had to learn like painfully different things. Um, it's I don't have like a resource to say like, oh, this is what I did to be able to manage my brand or my business. But I definitely did a lot of different things, like courses online and things about specific stuff that are part of a business. So for example, um, the productivity was a huge issue for me, or it's always been something like like an interesting topic anyway. But it was like an issue because I was doing things that I thought were um, crucial, but those are things that ultimately don't really make an impact or don't really um, fall into the category of a business. So I was just doing things that I thought, oh, this is
Like
part of the business, and
like what, for
wasn't.
example?
So um, let's say I was spending like I am because I'm a very visual person. I would spend a week trying to refine the most perfect logo that I wanted
Mm-hmm.
for the release of a website of my thing, right? And then I would spend that time, and then when I get to that, like the launch, and I realize, oh, the color is different from the other color palette. So I was focusing on like the small picture type of things. Like I want this to be cool, and then figure out the rest afterwards. So that was like a massive shift when I learned that it's like, all right, let's plan things for the big picture. Let's let's have some deadlines, some projects, some goals. Let's organize the time to basically meet those deadlines for the milestones of a project that will actually move the needle. As in, this is the one that is going to produce something, rather than being, hang into the little details of a business, let's say. So there's no, like I said, there's no like a resource that comes to mind. But for me, the business side of things comes down to discipline and being able to organize and surround yourself with a network, obviously, but to surround yourself with people that believe kind of like in what you're doing and help you. So I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if my wife wasn't as supportive, right? Because there was a time that when I actually quit my job, I did have the savings and everything, but she was like, "No, just do your thing. I'll cover us for this amount of months, right? If something happens." Fortunately, I was able to, produce enough to live and everything. But having that support, which is not something that comes as easy, or not a lot of people have it, right? So I'm not sure if I'm in a position to say like, "Oh, this is how you do things," because I've been very fortunate in that sense. But like, if you want like a concrete thing about how to get into that business or running the business, I would say is you have to be patient as well. Patient about when things come to you, I think. And you cannot just sit and wait for things to happen. Like, you need to make the opportunities. You need to create the opportunities in a way for them to come. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of like being organized, and the productivity side of things. I think that runs a business. If you're productive, if you know what to produce and what to do, that would run a business. And it really depends on the type of business as well that you're doing, because everyone is a brand. Like, everyone that, if you put yourself out there with a logo and your name is this and the other, and you put that in Instagram and then you have it everywhere, that's your personal brand. You're just branding yourself under that sort of umbrella. So it's also trying to figure out what to share and what not to share, because once it's out there, you're out. I can't remember who told me this, but someone basically said to me, is like, don't share anything that you don't want your grandma to see, in a way. I can't remember who it was, but it's not like it's stuck with me, but like the whole idea of what I want to share is someone that I can share it with my grandma, right? Like, it's something cool. And even though I do creatures and creepy things sometimes, that's still something that I would share, but nothing obscene, nothing that would be political, or, and that's just my personal choice, in a way. Not because I don't have any strong feelings about certain, things that are happening in the world and things like that. I just don't want to be, that's not the brand that I want to put out there for the type of things that I'm in the industry. So that's a business decision, let's say.
Yeah. No, like, on that note, like, I definitely see certain people who are very vocal about whatever issues, we'll kind of keep it broad here. And I kind of look at that and I think to myself, like, I'm interested in your artwork, and maybe even more than your artwork. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about, how to do things, how, and all those things. I'm trying to like say this in a nice way. When I want my political opinions, let's say, and I want to develop my, and hear thoughts about X, Y, and Z issue, that's going on, I'll go other places for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go to a resource that specializes in that thing to hear about that topic, and it's to your point, as in, it, I don't know if I'd say, I won't go so far as to say it ruins the experience for me, but there is a certain feeling. It does kind of rub the wrong way when you follow somebody, right, for again, in this context, for artwork, and all of a sudden they're talking about other topics that are very divisive, and you're like, it again, I very much feel that I don't have to agree with you to get along with you, right? But at the same time, it does sort of rub the wrong way of like, okay, but like, that's not what I'm here for,
Yeah. It's like I said, it's almost your it's like the storefront of your brand. And so if you change it like constantly, or you change what you kind of like advertise for, it's like, well, what are you saying, right?
Yeah.
And you
Or
can
if
have
you
like
see a
different
storefront that's like a toy store and you walk inside and it's a grocery store, you'd be like, wait a second. You know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that is, I totally agree with you, and that is a business decision, right?
Right.
And everyone is entitled to their opinion, and everyone has an opinion, and everyone feels that they can share their opinion, and that's great, freedom of speech, right? But you kind of like have to read the room a little bit and see like what the context is. Again, trying to keep things broad here, but I have like two very specific examples of things that I was like, I don't know what to say, so I don't say anything. And that's my approach. If my interaction with the community and the people that follow me cannot be a good one, I just ignore it, because that's not good for me and that's not good. I don't want to engage. And the amount of like, comments that I have, like, oh, this is so stupid, why are you doing this thing? Or this is such a bad. I had a comment recently saying, this is the worst workflow no professional artist should be doing. The topology is horrible, blah blah blah. And you read it, and it's like, true, like that's a valid point. The topology is horrible, but you didn't read what I put in there, which is, this is for concept. I'm a concept artist. I don't care about the topology. I want to have a visual image, and at the end, it's a really cool image, right? Or I think it is, right? So when I read this type of things, or this type of engagement, this type of comments, I don't engage with them. I was like, yeah, if you don't like what I'm producing, I don't need to convince you otherwise.
Right.
I have other people that have that will follow, or that will interact with me in a much more positive way. And I don't run my life in social media. Like, I actually I'm not very good at it. I have a relatively decent size following base, but I'm not good at it, right? And I'm not keeping up with the different algorithm things and all of that good, stuff. So I don't need to waste my time in those people that are going to be detrimental to what I do. I'd rather spend my time answering questions that are genuine, and that's how I interact in social media, right? I just post things, and if there is a genuine question like, oh, I wonder how you do this, why you chose this over this, that's cool. I'm happy to answer that. I'm happy to engage with that person because he's genuinely asking, or give me an advice, So yeah, I had one question, or someone that I can't remember, but let's keep things brother, because that will be too specific. But yeah, so like comments and things that that will be polarizing in my account, or in things that I share. Is like, what I'm sharing has nothing to do with anything that you're talking about. You just wanna, you just wanna say things in a platform that has millions of views, or whatever. So that's one thing, and the other thing, I guess, in terms of like business decisions, going back to the because it all ties together. Like I posted a reel on Instagram, right? And it's one of those things that I didn't plan too much for it, but it suddenly had like millions and millions of views, like ridiculous. And I was like, this is crazy. And of course, when you get to that level, the amount of people viewing it is going to be from all sorts of different walks of life and different experiences, and not all of them are going to be in the industry, and not all of them are going to be appreciative of the art that you're trying to show, or like the process. So specifically, this is a reel where I'm basically it's kind of like a time lapse where I'm showing some tips and tricks that I show in a workshop that I do in my course on how to texture. So I was just like damaging leather, something very basic, simple, but it got millions of views. And once it kind of like went a little bit viral, everyone was saying, this is terrible. Like, why are you doing this way? This is my computer would explode. These are like millions and millions of polygons. Why would you bother? And those are comments of people that maybe they have an idea of what they're talking about in the industry. Like they know the terminology and the jargon of like, oh, this is topology, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But they don't even bother of like reading what is being posted, right? So in the post clearly said these are, and I put it, I'm just playing with the height map control, because every time that I put something out there in social media, I try to be instructional in a way, just to share a tip or share something. So I make the effort of writing a description of what I'm showing. But because we're very visual, people see something, and it's like what you were saying, that first impression is like, all right, I just need to comment. I just need to give my opinion on this first thing that I saw. I'm not even going to bother watching the whole thing or reading what this is about. Which is funny, because I sometimes like get like these people that are kind of like, I wouldn't say they were fans, but like they do appreciate the things that I do, and they keep recurring, they keep coming back to stuff. And they're kind of like they defending me already, so I don't have to say anything. So it's like, man, you didn't even read it, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need to engage in those conversations anymore.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and I don't even think, even for somebody who doesn't have a large following, and kind of gets those same sort of comments. As in, let's say the exact same situation, but you had 10 followers, you still don't have to engage, because it doesn't enhance anything. It doesn't
help anything.
It doesn't help anything, right? The whole social media game, because it really kind of is a game, is very bizarre, because you're kind of navigating a minefield, and like, so you want to nurture the positive interactions you're having with genuine fans, like you were saying, right? But then also there are people who are just coming on, and some people just comment, for the sake of commenting and for the sake of, whatever. And some people just are miserable people, and they feel like I just have to like hate on everything, and then there's a whole, there's a term like a rage bait, right? Where people will like say things controversial just because they know by saying this, it'll get people angry. So they'll start commenting, and all of a sudden the more comments they get, the more views they'll get. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of it's a weird thing, and, but I think your philosophy is right, of like, those who want to hear what you have to say and want to learn the tips and tricks that you're putting out will gain the value from it, and those who don't won't. But it's not, once you put it out there, it's not really your problem,
Yeah, I mean, I would say, that's totally true. Like, it's not my problem in the sense of like, if I don't want to, I don't need to interact. It is kind of like my problem if I decide to keep it, right? If I said, this is the content I'm putting out there, like you can go back in my like Instagram reel to the very beginning, and I was just sharing like completely different things, right? I started a project called the Daily Sketch that I did for like 2 years, and I produced one tiny little sketch, just paper and ink, for a year, and that was my Instagram when I kind of like started. It was just posting one little thing every day, doodles, like nothing to do with what I was doing, even though at the time I was also doing sculpting. So it's kind of like, well, now that I'm doing 3D and then I do concept art, and I would say more polished stuff than what I was doing in the beginning, does that mean that I need to go back and delete all those stuff or create a new account just for this stuff? I don't think so. Like, I think it also shows kind of like where you come from, and if you can be bothered, it will show you a bit of like that sort of progression in the skills, I would say, or in the and how you grow as an artist and how you develop your own style. So in that regard, I would say like you have to own it. You have to, whatever you put out there, you have to own it. If not, then don't put it out there. And going back again to the business side of things, so the decisions that I make to put content out there is in an effort to help other people that I think, basically sharing things that when I was, starting up, I would have thought, oh, this would be great if I knew this, right? Or if someone showed me this tool, that would be awesome, right? So that's what I try to do with content. But it's very much a conscious business decision in that sense, that whatever I put out there, regardless of what it is, I own up to it. Like, this is something that I want to do and I want to share. If not, I don't share it. So if you look at my Instagram, for instance, or other stuff, I don't share. There's not an absolute, like a single picture of food, like, or when I go out for food, or like my friends, or, and those are very conscious things, because I don't want to mix the two. But what I've seen is, or what I've realized is that because when you start posting things and by the way, I don't want to sound that it's it's critical, I think, at this age to have social media. It's an important thing. It's part of the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But what I've found is that if you, regardless of the following base that you have, if you interact genuinely with the people that follow you, that's gonna show the level of how can I put this? Basically, the people that are out there that are really like amazing and pros, like the more followers they have, or like the more amazing art they have, I found those are the people that will actually reply to you if you write to them directly, like a private message. So the more pro an artist is, the more likely you are to get a response, because they have gone through that process, they have gone through that struggle, and they have gone through that thing. And most people would, or most of these artists would go like, yeah, this is someone starting up, or whatever the case might be. It's a genuine question that I know the answer. It took me 2 seconds to reply to it, or a suggestion of like, go for this CPU instead of this CPU, things like that.
Yeah.
When I get those messages, I'm like, that's easy, it takes 2 seconds. I'm happy to do it. And that I think helps to create that branding in social media, that like, you're being genuine, and you're trying to help, rather than just I want followers. Like if you look at my Instagram, I reckon more than half are just bots. I don't think that they're all real people. If they are, great, but I'm not I'm not keeping my eye on it.
Right. No, yeah, and there are definitely people who do focus on the numbers, and it's that's kind of the whole focus. But I think if you kind of play that game and that is your sole focus, it's just going to lead you to be miserable. It's the same thing, like you hear it all the time with like money, like people who make $1 million want $1 billion. Like it's the same thing with this. Like especially as an artist, or somebody who's creating. I don't want to say creating content, because I guess everybody on Instagram is creating content.
Yeah.
But somebody who's has a genuine artistic skill, it's very easy to what's the term? Lose the tree for the forest for the trees. My point is, it's very easy to kind of get caught up and be like, I'm making art to post on Instagram versus I'm making art because this is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And the people noticing it is kind of a bonus.
Yeah.
And it's a fine line.
Yeah, and that is actually true in going back to the whole idea of business. That thing that you just mentioned about producing art just to put in Instagram and things like that. That to me, it's kind of like creating things for Instagram is a byproduct of what I'm doing for a different reason. So and this is something we have a lesson in the Extra Mile course that I have at the very end, which is more about this, about business and how to promote yourself and what are the best ways of doing it, or even like times of posting and things like that. And one of the things that I say is like, you've been working throughout these weeks, let's say in the workshop, producing stuff that are work in progress towards one single magical piece, right? But everything that you've done, you can repurpose it, and that's to me, that's the byproduct. So as I create a new project, I for instance, if I'm creating a humanoid character or human character, and I need to develop a specific brush in ZBrush for the pores, right? I might record the process of that, and that serves me as a tutorial if people are interested in that. I might save that brush and then do a few more and then create a pack that I can sell if people are interested in that as well. So that's another byproduct. I can take screenshots of the process of doing it and then the final one, and maybe do like a couple of videos as well. So everything is content. Everything is content, but everything is a byproduct of the goal, which is creating this cool thing that is either a portfolio piece or concept to promote my courses or something to help a student, things like that. So that's my point. Like if your sole focus is, like you said, creating things for the sake of pursuing that view count or creating cool things in Instagram, it's the same thing as if you just want to make money in this industry, it's not as likely that you're gonna just reach.
Right.
Whereas if you do what
if you're
you
in
like,
the industry to make money, go be a real estate agent.
go
you know?
do something
Like-
else.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing with AI. Like I get this question a lot from students and other of my followers. Like, oh, what do you think about AI? Or is it worth pursuing a career now with AI and all of this? It's like, look, I think yes, the gap is getting. I mean, the things that AI can do now is crazy. There's no soul to it, but it's crazy, and you have to be impressed by it. It's just that what I think is happening is that since AI can produce like really cool stuff at the moment, anyone that is starting up that maybe not they don't have the skill yet, right? Because it's something that you develop over time. They might get discouraged by like, oh well, what's the point of trying to get to this level if AI can produce something that I'm not at that level right now, right? I just kind of like lost my train of thought, but I was coming back to a point with producing stuff.
But making content for the sake of making the content
sake of
versus
content.
for the sake of.
That was great, thanks. So my point was that like I get this question. So why you keep doing what you're doing if AI can do probably something better or faster? It's like what I do. I don't do it for making money. I'm very fortunate that I have managed to make money out of it, but I do it because I love doing it. And that is an important that's an important thing or important point to make, or to at least know the difference. And of course, there has to be a structure or a plan behind it. Otherwise, you just end up doing things like you like, and you're never going to make money. So
Right.
it's a nice balance that you need to find. But I think the core value is that if you're in it to make money, you become a lawyer, become an accountant, right?
Yeah.
You're not doing things that you don't have those passion projects, and those passion projects that you're not even thinking about the money. You just know about what you want to do. Those are likely to be the ones that either bring someone that that looked at the project and is like, oh, this is great. Can we work together? Or things like that. So that was my point earlier on about creating the opportunities. You're not just gonna sit out there.
I've seen so many instances of people who have started a project as a passion project because they just love whatever it is, and developed it into a business. Just like, for example, somebody I was talking to, hopefully going to have them on here. Shout out, they call themselves Chamber of Souls is their Instagram handle. And it's this couple, I think they're in Florida if I'm not mistaken. And they built a Disney style dark ride in their backyard. It's like a haunted house, and they would build it every year for Halloween. So they'd set it up, and they had a whole thing. He had a cart that runs on a track, and and he built animatronics for it and a whole thing. And I had first found them on YouTube because again, it was a passion project. They were just building it for their local community. And he had posted like tutorials about how he did each step of the process.
Right.
And I love dark rides and animatronics. That's like my favorite thing in the industry. And so I was fascinated. I was watching, I was like writing down notes, and I was like analyzing how they did everything. I was like, okay, one day, like I'm going to, when I have a space to do this, I'm going to build my own. But then, so I've been following them for a number of years on YouTube and on Instagram. And a couple of years ago, I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, they actually launched a whole company around this, and so now they sell animatronics and parts to kind of go and build your own, and it's so cool to kind of watch that evolution. Yeah, and it was so cool to like watch the evolution in real time. Of like, it started out as like they were kind of just doing it in their backyard because they like the haunted house at Disney World, to now they are selling animatronics, and they're selling tracks and carts and stuff, and it's I love those kinds of success stories.
And that's that's a great example of that idea, like you said, like a passion project. But I think the key aspect of that success story, and many other of the same sort of style, is the fact that you're sharing progress, and that you're sharing your process and your stuff. Because a lot of people will like, oh, I'm not going to share this until this is perfect, right? And I share things that I wouldn't put in my professional portfolio. Like the amount of things that I have in Instagram is nowhere near what I have in my portfolio, because I know it's not that super impressive quality. It might look cool, but it's not there, right? but
Yeah.
it's more things that I share to build that kind of like record of things that I'm doing, and people can compare, if anything, and how things progress. So
Yeah.
if you put things out there, if you share your progress, and that's kind of like giving you a little bit of accountability as well. So like, I don't know in the case of what you mentioned, but if you start getting a following base and they're expecting, oh, what's the next thing that they're going to do, right? It sort of like pushes you to go like, okay, I'm not going to generate content for Instagram just to satisfy this demand, let's say, but I'm going to push myself to do that passion project that is going to give me those byproducts to then put in Instagram and share.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been having this conversation with pretty much every person I've spoken to, and it's a very exciting time for the independent creator. That's what I've kind of, I've come to that conclusion that we're living in a time when the independent creator has the ability to, I guess, monetize, and build their personal brand in a way that just never existed before.
Absolutely.
It used to be, just even a few years ago, it used to be like, if you were a 3D artist or an animator or whatever it is, the only option you had to make money doing this is by getting into a studio.
Yeah.
And now it's not the case anymore. Now through Instagram and through YouTube and through all the different, and Patreon and all the different resources, anybody can go and build an audience and sell direct to the audience. And I love it. I really like, again, I've had this conversation kind of ad nauseum at this point, but it's so exciting as a creator to see that like you don't need to be a part of a studio anymore. You really have the ability to just go and find the people who love your work, and then if you're good at it, also kind of have the people see you for who you are, and have them kind of develop a sort of, it's a little bit one way, but a personal relationship with you, and then be able to sell directly to those people and be like, if you like my work and you want to support me and you want me to continue to be able to do this, like, here, you could buy my course, my brushes, my 3D prints, whatever it is that you're selling, but you have this really cool kind of, direct to consumer economy.
Make it accessible, and then if you make it easy for people, and they're actually finding value in what you do, it's a no-brainer. Like, the amount of like students that I have that are kind of like, I don't like to use the term customers, but so that are recurring customers, let's say, is huge. And I don't have to have thousands of people. It's not a numbers game. I can just cater for 50 people that they really truly value what I do. They love the way that I teach, for example. So they find it the way that I teach more familiar, or like they understand a bit better maybe the concepts because the way that I share them, than someone else that might be maybe a better artist than myself, but they don't know how to communicate that knowledge. And so they stick with me because they like that portion, not necessarily my art. I think, right? So it could be like a two-way thing. So, and that, like you said, making that accessible for people, if they see what you're producing and they like it, they can come back to it, right? So like they buy one course, like, great, I want to also get these brushes that you have. Let's get those brushes as well. So they become like raving fans in a way that they help you, and they honestly they want you to succeed as well. So they share things like, hey, Pablo, have you? The amount of times that I have like policing from fans is great, because my courses before, they used to get like pirated and put online. And the amount of people that just like smash them on YouTube or whatever is like, hey, this is blah, blah, blah. This is horrible. Why are you doing this? And I didn't have to do anything. And they just share it with me and say, hey, this person is doing that, blah, blah, blah. So that, it's something great that came out of something awful. Was like the pirate thing. But like it just, like you said, as a content creator, you have all these tools available to you. Everything can be done online. I mean, Australia is like completely different time zones. And we still get to do these things and producing that content in whatever format this might end up being. It's still accessible.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm curious because I do want to kind of ask about your art because we haven't even touched upon it.
I'll go back.
No, it's fine. No, I was kind of curious, like, what are kind of like your inspirations in terms of like what sort of styles do you tend to gravitate towards? Do you enjoy? And then also like do you consume? Like, are you a fan of fantasy, sci-fi? What's kind of your go-to?
Yeah, a lot of that, like sci-fi, fantasy, retro, kind of like ancient type of thing, like comic style, Mobius type of thing. I tend to do like, I just appreciate the craftsmanship and the thought process of things. So I would say that my style, I don't know if I would say that I have a style, but if you look at my portfolio, you might see some common elements, right? So I tend to go for like these sort of whimsical creatures and characters that I always envision they're part of a universe, and I always try to fill whatever work that I do with some kind of backstory, even if I don't share it, if I don't show it to people or put it anywhere. It helps me define the character and it helps me define the concept itself. Just thinking about where is this guy going to live? Where is the why I'm going to make the eyes this big? Maybe they're on the ground. They don't need that huge eyes, that sort of thing. So I create these type of whimsical characters that live in different universe, and sometimes they could be in the same sort of universe as well. So that's what I like to create, but I like to consume as well from the different type of artwork. So a huge fan of Czesław Beksinski or H.R. Geiger, like those type of like really creepy, dark things.
Yeah.
I just find it interesting, like the gore element, but yet presented in such a nice and appealing and uncomfortable way. It's something that I love. So I tend to do that as well, right? So it's like, if you look at my portfolio, really, you see like a cute sort of character that could be, even like for children illustration. And the next time I just go ahead and do like a creepy eye that has like the rib cage open. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like hard to say that if I have a style. It's just I tend to go by waves of what's cool and what I find cool at the time. But I like comic art. I do a lot of comic stuff. That's sort of like not the traditional comic like DC comic stuff. More like the like
indie
graphic novel type of stuff.
Yeah. That's really cool. No, just to your point, like my favorite director, I think probably of all time is Guillermo del Toro. I love his work. That kind of dark fantasy. And one thing I love about him specifically is his use of practical effects. He always leans on practical effects, and I think it looks so much better than like VFX. Yeah,
like the old school Star Wars as well. Like you just have those animatronic things and puppets.
Yeah. No, but like Pan's Labyrinth, like the fawn in Pan's Labyrinth, like, and also like, first of all, there's the I like the dark fantasy aspect of it, but also just the actual artwork itself is gorgeous. I mean, so again, the fawn. You look at Hellboy, Hellboy and Abe, and the kind of those characters for me when I was young when I was watching these movies, but like I think they really shaped how I view kind of the entertainment industry, like art world.
They become like icons.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh man, this made me feel so old because I was just thinking that sort of like same feeling that you got from those for me was Jurassic Park. When I saw the dinosaurs like animatronics, and that was a long time ago, and that's when I thought, I didn't even know this could be like an industry. I didn't know it could be a job to build this stuff.
Yeah, no, like for me, like when I was younger, and like even I wasn't that young, like going to like Disney and like looking around at the rides and like trying to understand how everything was happening and how they were doing these different tricks. To me, like that, there's something about that there's obviously like the magical aspect, which is kind of like their brand, but it's more than that. It's the technical feats of it.
Of course.
Of like, it's just it's so cool.
And when you understand a little bit, it's like, I can't believe they did it this way. That's the cool thing. I remember different movies like with the Lord of the Rings and things like that. I used to be more drawn to watch the behind the scenes first, or like see, like just go to this DVD when DVDs existed.
Yeah.
I was like, let's go to the behind the scenes and watch. And I was like, oh, this is how they do it, you know?
Yeah.
And that was
No,
that was like
I've always
super
loved
cool.
that stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Like,
that's I think, you know, again, that's one of the things that I reckon is good when you're a content creator to share, like with your art and with your business and everything. Share the stuff that, like, the final stuff is great, but if you share a little bit of the behind the scenes, you're tapping into this other market, let's say, or this other audience that are interested in the way things are done, not necessarily the final thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think like the fear there, which I'm not sure, like I've heard both sides of the argument of whether it's a valid fear or not, is like the idea of like, well, if I show my work, then, you know, before it's finished, people will copy and whatever. And like on the one hand, like maybe, but at the same time, like it's your passion project. Like you're making this thing because you love this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else is not going to necessarily have that same passion for it that you do.
Yeah.
And even if they do go and try to rip it off, it's the final product is going to show. Like one person clearly loved what they were doing. One person did it just because they thought, oh, this is a chance for me to kind of rip this guy off and monetize. You know, it doesn't show the same.
No, that's true. And yeah, it's sometimes you're also like you would think like, oh, this is such a great project that I'm not going to share it because it's such a great thing, and it's going to be unique, and then you end up sharing. It's like, it's all right. it's not a great thing because you love it so much. So that's going back to the original point that we're trying to make about the different artists. When you're in a vacuum, you're in your own thing and you don't have any exposure to anyone else. You might think that you have the best idea in the world and you don't want to share it. But if you have at least that community where you can bounce back and forth and say, what do you think about that? You might realize that your idea might not be the greatest one, but it has legs. And through the input of other people in the community, you can develop it to be something really, really, really cool. That it ended up being something even better than what you thought it was going to be, or like what you thought it was the greatest idea in the world.
Yeah, for sure. I want to keep this. Let's wrap this up. But just one last question that I pose to all my guests, and that is, how do you define success?
I think it's, this is an interesting question now that you're asking because of the timing. I would have maybe had a different question a couple months ago, but now that I have my kid, it really shifted perspectives, and it really changed the way that I view certain priorities. So for me right now, the fact that he's healthier, that I can support my family with doing what I love doing, the fact that I managed to, let's say, bring my parents from overseas just to meet their grandson, and I paid for it, like that type of thing, that's success. Like I don't need to look for more. You know what I mean? So that gives me like that sort of feeling of, I don't know, like maybe I'm relaxed about it, thinking that, all right, if there is something else or there's a new project, I'm gonna tackle it, rather than thinking, I don't know what I'm gonna do next month, or I don't know what I'm doing this. I need to succeed in this. I need to be better at this. I need to get to this amount of Instagram views or this stuff. A lot of those like metrics that sometimes might define success for some people, they're completely below my baseline now, which is we're healthy, we're happy, have like good supporting family, have like friends. Fortunately, things are going well. I have the community. Even if I don't open the course, like I said, the course that I have online, I think is very successful because I can help people achieve their goals. I would define that as my success from my point of view. Obviously, that brings in money, but that's how I view it. It's like I'm succeeding in what my original intention was, to help these people get jobs and being part of the industry. And because I am an active member of that community, I see it constantly, right? So it's kind of like a constant reassurance that, this is success. This is how I view success. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's like because of the timing, I think it's slightly different. Yeah. So I think I'm at a point in my life that I feel that I succeeded in a lot of the things that I wanted to do. Doesn't mean that I'm going to stop. maybe I can change my goals again and different success, metrics. But at this point, that to me is success.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. I mean, I know you're a busy guy, and I can't thank you enough for coming on and taking the time. And
No
this
problem,
is
man.
such a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. It's been great. Talking. Sometimes, it's great to remind yourself that we can talk about other things that are not just, how do you unwrap these UVs?
Yeah.
How do you do this? So yeah, thanks
And,
for having me, man.
Yeah, where can everybody find you online? Socials, classes, all the.
Just Pablander, PABLANDER. Sorry, Pablander. Yeah. So it's Pablo.
Right.
It's like Highlander, the immortal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. It's a stupid story, but Pablo as a Highlander type of thing.
Amazing. All right, thank you so much.
No worries, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Cheers.